Inspired Nonprofit Leadership, where you'll hear insights and useful strategies, as well as lessons learned from other nonprofit leaders and valuable tips from a variety of experts. Here to help you with the challenges and opportunities you face day after day is your host, nonprofit leadership expert, Mary Highland.
Hello, inspired nonprofit leaders, and welcome to your go-to place for information and inspiration to help you be even more effective. I'm your host, Mary Highland, and you're listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. My guest today is Reverend Marcia Grace. Marcia Grace has spent more than 30 years studying and teaching the principles of A Course in Miracles. She is an interfaith minister, speaker, and author of the book Calm, Creative, Joyful: Lessons in Transforming Your Life. Marcia Grace received a BA in Philosophy and Religion from Stony Brook University in 1990. In 1995, she graduated from the New Seminary and was ordained as an interfaith minister. She served for 2 years on the board of the Inspiration Plus Foundation, whose mission is to bring art and science together in social and educational contexts. Marcia Grace has always dreamed of living near the sea, and in 2007, she moved to Sound Beach on the North Shore of Long Island, where she walks to the beach as often as she can. She has served on the board of the Sound Beach Property Owners Association to support her community. Marcia Grace has performed hundreds of weddings and baby blessings, taught classes in metaphysics and religion for 30-plus years, and has spoken at various religious and secular groups throughout the New York metropolitan area. She's organized and led several spiritual retreats on Long Island and has been a chaplain at Northwell Health in Manhasset. She holds weekly classes in the Principles of A Course in Miracles, locally on Long Island. Currently, she also mentors entrepreneurs and business owners who realize that they need to connect with their inner wisdom to relieve their chronic stress so they can be happier, healthier, and more successful in their business and personal relationships. And I know you know as nonprofit leaders running organizations that applies to you too. So we are going to be talking about that. Welcome, Marcia Grace. It's great to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Mary, for inviting me. And I just have to tell you, I am so inspired by your efforts to help your nonprofit boards be successful. I think that's just wonderful. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. And you know what? I forgot something about Marcia Grace that I know you're going to want to know. She loves cats, dogs, chickens, and all manner of furred and feathered life, and enjoys watching her hens rummage in the compost pile on her property when her cat, Claudia, spelled Clawdia, isn't chasing them. So I just had to get that in, Marcia Grace, because it was so fun, and so it says a lot about you personally.
Yeah, I love animals.
I love animals. Well, this conversation about stress, which of course is what we all know that we have to have in our lives. And some people have found, and studies have found, that stress can be helpful to us when it's constructive, but it's also very negative for us. So it affects us in many ways. Why is it so hard to get rid of stress?
All right, well, let me just backtrack. That's a very good question, and I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
I'm not avoiding the answer.
No, that's okay.
I just want to say, because you mentioned about how stress can be good, and I agree on the sense that we can't avoid stress, and when you have the tools, you can handle stress, easily. And something is stressing you, and you become aware of it and you take care of it. And that can be motivational in a sense, right? It can move us forward. So yeah, in that sense. But I do want to really make clear that if we have undifferentiated, constant stress, unrelieved stress, that's dangerous. It's dangerous to your health, your relationships. It's something you must handle before something terrible happens. I just wanted to clear that up. Because I think it's a good point to make that stress works both ways, right?
It does.
In the hands of a healer saves a life. In the hands of a murderer takes a life. So it's not the thing itself. It's how we apply ourselves to it. So,
right.
Yeah.
And you're right. I do understand that it's in our society and in things that I've read about stress, that it's this constancy that is what wears us down. We fight or flight was fine when it got over with, but when it doesn't, it's destructive to us.
Yeah. Absolutely. The cortisol levels shoot up. You can't sleep. Your digestive system goes all wacko,
right.
and that leads to all kinds of physical and emotional problems. So,
right.
Yeah. So that to me is why I'm so passionate about helping business people and entrepreneurs handle their stress, because I've been through it myself. I was a type A person who just never relaxed. And I got to a point where it really almost took me over the edge. I really had to come back from, way down deep. And so I know how it feels.
Well, and I know, our listeners as nonprofit leaders, having been there in their shoes, there's constant stressors. You're trying to make a difference in the community. You're doing work without all the resources you need. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, Marcia Grace, because your wisdom about strategies and tools and things that you can help people understand that they can do about it. So,
so let me answer your question. I didn't forget.
Okay, good.
All right, because you asked me, why is it so hard to get rid of stress, right? Well, obviously because things are always happening all around us and that we don't expect. But what I want to say is something much deeper. It's a much deeper level of understanding where stress comes from, because our tendency is to perceive stress as an external experience. In other words, she said something that upset me, or this happened and now I don't know what to do, or all those kind of external things. But in the final analysis, the reason that we experience stress and that it's so hard to get rid of it is because we associate what's happening today with something from our past.
Okay.
Something that we're holding on to, some guilt, some shame, some fear from the past. And as a result, when that thing comes up and we make that connection, oh my goodness, well, you just opened up a whole jar of, can of beans, and everything is just spilling out.
Right.
So this is the problem that I help my clients deal with, because the past will just do us in. It'll do us in if we hold on to those old memories. Now, I'm not saying we should let go, try to erase them from our minds. Of course, that's impossible. But there are strategies and techniques to help us handle those memories so that we can see them in a benign light.
I was thinking, as I was considering this question of working to get rid of stress, and it occurred to me that maybe we don't get rid of it. Maybe what it is about learning to manage it and learning to respond to it. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, is that there are things you can do and things you can learn. So what are some of those things that you can do or learn, Marcia Grace?
Well, it's funny, I people always want something, 1, 2, 3,
right.
Just press this button and here's the answer, and it's of course not that simple. It's easy, but not simple, as one of my teachers used to say.
Yes.
It's easy because it's really, and this is the simple answer, is that it's a decision. It's merely a decision that we make in our minds. However, because we are dealing with all of those past associations, it's just not going to happen instantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not simple. Okay. Because it's a complicated situation. We are complicated beings, are we not? And so we have all of these complicated memories that interact with each other. And so, as I said, it's an effort that takes willingness to go through a process of beginning to examine your thoughts and recognize that they're scary only if you let them be so. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. In other words, I can have a thought and I could say, oh, well, Marcia Grace is having a thought. Okay, fine. Let's go on to the next thing. Right. Or I can go, oh my gosh, oh, this is horrible. What a terrible thought. What am I going to do? And, get crazy. So this, of course, is what we want to avoid.
Right.
We don't want to go into that place. And that takes, as I said, a willingness, and perhaps it takes the determination to want peace instead of chaos. Okay? And I say that very, what's the word I want to use? Very specifically, because, we say, well, why can't I get rid of stress? Why is it so difficult? It's difficult because we don't want to get rid of stress. And I know that maybe sounds a little weird, but the truth of the matter is that our egos love excitement. They love tension. I mean, don't we all love a good movie where there's this tension? This mm-hmm. one that all the negatives are coming together. This is and there's this contretemps going on, and so we love that. We love that excitement, but unfortunately, it doesn't really usually work in our best interest.
Right.
So, and I'll tell you a little story, because many years ago, when I was first studying A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical discipline whose number one goal is to experience peace 24/7. 24/7, can you imagine?
Wow. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's as I said, it's a journey. You don't get there overnight. But so I'm telling this girlfriend of mine, that I just started reading this book called A Course in Miracles. That's all about. So she asked me, so what's it about? So I said, well, it's about learning how to be peaceful. And she looked at me, her eyes popped out of her head. She goes, what? Peaceful? She says, who wants to be peaceful? That's so boring.
Oh my gosh. And
I had no answer for that. But that's my point, that in other words, we love the excitement. We do. We really enjoy excitement and the thrills and chills. I mean, who likes riding roller coasters? Not me.
I don't either, although some people do. I know they do.
Yes,
yeah,
they sure
it's
do.
That adrenaline rush or whatever they call that. And I also think, something else came to mind where you're talking about doing the work that it takes, is that people don't necessarily want to take the time to invest in the activities, whether it's meditation or whatever it is to help with stress reduction. They do tend to look for a quick fix, which I know you do have something on your website that's a quick fix, and we're going to talk about that at the end. But I do think that the lasting results and the ability to cope long-term comes from more than that. So, exactly. So I would think that would be something that people have to realize, that if they want to learn how to better manage stress in their lives, they're going to need to invest some time in learning what that's going to be. Now, you work with people on stress reduction. How is it that your work is different than other people's? What's unique about the way you approach teaching people stress reduction, Marcia Grace?
Well, I would say I go to the root cause of the stress, which is in your mind. It's not out there. Mm-hmm. It's not about handling what that person said or fixing this situation. You're going to do those things probably eventually, but that's not the root cause of the stress, as I alluded to before. So the problem with stress is that it's a decision in our mind to get caught up and to feel the pressure, to allow ourselves to let that whole, all those thoughts that start coming in, they snowball and create this chaotic situation in our minds. So when we can begin to recognize that we've made that decision, and it's not, it's easy to say, not easy to do. Mm-hmm. Again, it takes preparation. It takes the willingness. It takes a certain understanding of things, that come with the way certainly the way I teach it. And you begin to see that you have the choices and that it is in your mind. And when you do make the choice, your whole life changes. I mean, mm-hmm. it's a miracle. I study A Course in Miracles. A miracle, by the way, just you didn't ask me this, but I'm going to tell you anyhow. Yeah. A miracle is a change of perception. Okay. Right? Because the Course in Miracles came through two psychologists at Columbia University back in the 1960s. And they were working together and not getting along very well. And one day they said, there must be a better way. There's got to be a better way to live life than being, fighting with each other all the time. Mm-hmm. And the Course came at that point. But it's about a change of perception. So where you were angry at someone, or where you were holding a grievance against someone, or where you were angry at yourself, feeling guilty or whatever about something, you suddenly can look at that and see it with loving eyes. You can see it with forgiveness.
Okay. Well, hold that thought, because mm-hmm. we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsor, but we will be back to talk more with Marcia Grace about stress and managing stress. Today's episode is being brought to you by Highland Consulting, which I created to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders. I want to help you unleash your full potential to advance the missions you care about so deeply. I've been an executive director, board member, and now I'm a consultant and coach. I know your challenges firsthand, and I want to bring information, inspiration, encouragement, and support to you so you can have the greatest possible impact. Now, I have a free gift for you that I think is related to our topic today. It's called Create Your Own Weekly Renewal Plan in Just 3 Easy Steps. And that guide talks about energy renewal practices. Now, you can't create more time. You're not going to get more time to do what you need to do, but you can create more energy. And in that little guide will help you learn the practices that will help you do that and actually create a plan for yourself to do it. So I hope that you will grab that. You can get it by going to Highland Consulting. That's HILAND, https:// highlandconsulting.org/request-weekly renewal plan. Again, that's highlandconsulting.org/request/weekly renewal plan. And there will be a link to that in the show notes. Okay, we are back, and I am talking with Marcia Grace about stress reduction, and strategies for doing that. So what are some tips? Do you have some tips for listeners? We've talked about how important it is to recognize that the source of your stress is in your own mind and that you can make a decision. Do you have some pointers for how people can begin that process, or something else that you think would be helpful to them?
Sure, of course. Well, I could spend all day literally making suggestions, because different ththings work for different people. Right. On a very surface level. In other words, I could say, go take a walk on the beach, which is what I do all the time. Okay. When that really just brings me in touch with nature and my own sense of the peace within me. So it could be anything like that. There are many, many ways. People knit, they, do a lot of different things. But ultimately, the way, and that's temporary, right? Those kinds of things are temporary. So they, they'll help you, at the particular moment. But as we were talking about earlier, we want to learn how to handle stress, be proactive, rather than get into a stressful situation. We want to be in a state of consciousness where it doesn't even come up. Okay. In other words, there is no stress. All right. So, I mean, I know that could be a dream, but but we can work toward that. And of course, the way I see that happening is through that what I call a morning pause, my Waking with Spirit morning pause program that I teach, because it's when we start our day off in a place with quiet, with peace, with a decision to have our day go connect, so that we're connected. Because again, this is another issue that stress comes from a place where I'm here and you're there, right? You're on opposite poles, right? There's tension. Lack of stress comes when we know we're all working together. And Mary, I know this is what you long for and work with your clients, in terms of learning how to work together, right? So we're learning how to see that our goal is the same. We all have the same goal. We all want to succeed. We all want to have the best results possible for whatever our goals are. So, so that to me is really, really essential to understanding how we get to that place of peace. That you can do it proactively by starting your day with a desire and a willingness and an intention to be in the present moment. Okay, now remember I said the past is what gets us into trouble, right? All that past stuff. So what is the antidote to that? It's being in the present moment.
Right.
So when we're in the present moment, that's when we are most creative. Think about it. If you're out in the garden and you're digging in the soil, or you're, I don't know, listening to music, or you're dancing, or whatever it is, people do to just unwind, that's when you're in the shower, right? Everybody says, oh, I got the greatest idea while I was in the shower.
Right.
Because you're in a peaceful moment. You're by yourself. There's no interruptions, and your mind is open. You're open. So this is what you want. You don't want it to happen by accident. You want to set yourself up so that you can allow that flow of creativity to be activated all day long. Wow, wouldn't that be wouldn't that be amazing?
Yes.
So I tell you, each day that I live and breathe and do my practice, I wake up, I'm so excited every day. I look forward to the day because I know that wonderful things are going to happen. And it's that kind of an attitude. If you start your day off that way, and again, not in a Pollyanna way. I don't, if I'm sounding that way, I don't want to do that.
I don't think you're sounding that way, at least not to me.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because it's really very level. It's very, it's a very solid, concrete place to be in your mind, where you are sure that you are entitled to have peace, to have joy, to be creative, to find answers, to be in the moment with whomever you're with, getting stuff done.
Right.
It's exciting. It's wonderful, and we can have that. You're not going to have it though if you're bringing in all the old stuff, if all those old doubts and fears and guilt trips that we put on ourselves keep flowing back in. So for me, the purpose of a meditative process, and I don't even use that word a lot. I actually call it sitting. I call it sitting because you're sitting in the fullness and openness of your own mind. And you're not doing what many people think meditation is, which is clearing your mind. I don't even want you to clear your mind. That's not my purpose and intention at all. I want you to see your thoughts so that you can recognize the ones that are helpful and
that's a good point.
That aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that to me is that morning pause is what I teach, is what is what I want people to realize that they can get to.
You know, that's such an interesting idea, because I've heard this before, and I don't think it comes up that much, but is that one of the benefits of who we are and how we are as human beings is that we can be a witness to ourselves. And what I'm thinking of as you're talking about that is this whole idea of being able to observe our own thoughts and you know, recognize what's going on in our minds, and not just being victims of what's going on in there, you know, but to have some ability to recognize. And that's how you make the choice that you're talking about. That's how you can be in a place of making a decision to at least try to change your thoughts. It's hard sometimes to get things out of your mind that are around you, you know, in your environment, but to realize that you can change the way you think about them, the perceptions that you are choosing to accept or not. Now, you did talk about success, and we talked about the relationship of stress and success. And one of the questions that we considered, and I don't know if it's relevant now to ask you this or not, but what is the secret to success from your point of view?
Again, this is it may not be an answer that you would normally hear.
Well, that's what I want on the show. Marcia Grace's answers people don't normally hear.
Yeah, well, that's what you're going to get, because when we're talking about success, of course, I'm not just talking about being financially successful. I'm talking about success in every area of life. And if you ask me, let me just preface the answer to that, as I tend to be doing tonight. But my definition of success is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are all in complete alignment.
What you think, what you say, and what you do are all in alignment.
Yes, that is true success.
It's a really interesting idea, really interesting concept.
Okay. So working off of that premise, then, because true success is then it's an internal experience that then plays out in your external life.
Right.
So, you know, after all we've talked about, right? So you can see where that happens, where we're shifting our understanding of stress as, rather than being external, as being an internal experience that we can then have the power. See, I have no power over the people and things that are going on outside of me.
Right. You have no control. And that just makes stress worse when you can't, you feel like you have no control over the situation.
Exactly. So if that's where I'm focused, forget it, I'm lost. But if I bring it back to me, to my own power to choose, now I'm in the driver's seat.
Yep.
So that shifts the whole process. So understanding that, so now the reason that we have all of that stuff from the past is because we have not chosen to forgive ourselves for our past mistakes. Mm-hmm. So the number one secret to success is forgiving yourself for your past mistakes. Your past, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, right? Sure. But we may find it very easy to forgive other people their mistakes. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe sometimes yes, sometimes no. But when it comes to ourselves, oh boy, not so easy.
Right.
We tend to hold ourselves at a much higher level of efficiency or whatever than we need to think of ourselves. So and again, that's separative, right? That puts me in a different place. Right. Why shouldn't I forgive myself just as easily as I'll forgive someone else? Right. Why not?
Right. And I imagine people don't even recognize the need to do that because they're not recognizing that that's what the dynamic is as you're describing it in terms of stress and how it comes up in our lives and that deeper cause and that deeper dynamic. Marcia Grace, I can hardly believe that we are almost out of time, but I do want to have time to give people information about how to connect with you. But before we do that, is there a takeaway that you want our listeners to remember from this episode? Anything in particular that you want them to think about?
Yep. Sure. I think that if nothing else, I want you to know that you have the answer to all your problems right in your own mind. They're there, and you can learn how to access that knowledge. But you need an expert. It's just like anything else you want to learn in life. You need someone who's been there or who's studied and knows the steps that need to be taken. But it is absolutely something that you can accomplish.
For you. Great. Well, Marcia Grace, thank you so much. There's been so much wisdom shared here and really thought-provoking ideas that I really appreciate you sharing with our listeners. Now, you can connect with Marcia Grace. The email address I have here for you is becalm, BECALM, @marciagrace.com. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
But also
get the Marcia Grace. It's MARCIA, because people always ask me, is it Marcia SHA or CIA?
Oh, right. Thank you. Yes, Marcia, MARCIA, Grace, GRACE, and marciagrace.com is her website. And she has a free gift for you. Marcia Grace, you want to say something about that and how they can get that?
Yeah. It came up right at the top of this discussion when we talked about wanting quick fixes, right? Because we're all in such a rush. And I happen to have a quick fix for you. But the thing I'm just going to warn you about is, yes, it is absolutely great and it works in the moment. It's terrific. But don't count on it for the long
right, because for again, resilience.
As I said, we want to be proactive. We don't want to be reactive in the final analysis.
Okay.
So, but I've got that for you, and it works like a dream when your stomach clenches and your throat closes up and you start sweating and you need something fast. I've got that for you. So you can get that at my website at www.marciagrace.com/quick fix.
Quick fix. And there will be a link to that in the show notes. Well, thank you so much. It was so great to have you. And I certainly have benefited from all these ideas personally, and I hope you, our listeners, have. So thanks, Marcia Grace, for being here.
Thank you, Mary, so much for allowing me to share some pretty way out there ideas, perhaps, but they work.
I know they do. It's okay. Yeah. And, my listeners know every once in a while we'll come up with something that's a little different, but I really do believe in these practices, and I know they work personally. So, and I want to thank all of you for listening in, and thank you for the work that you do to make our communities better. Take care of yourself. And be sure and listen in next week to another episode of Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Until then, all the best.